Good morning. Looks like we have a few people joining us. Welcome. Hello, Marvelous. Welcome. Just going to, if you don't mind, give it another 3 minutes. Let's give others a chance and perhaps we'll have some others joining us. There we have Maureen. Welcome, Maureen. It's December. Everyone's busy pushing, trying to just get through the last few days of this year. Everybody's tired, but I so appreciate you joining us today. And I see, hopefully, we have a few more. So if you don't mind, it's just hit 11 o'clock. I'm going to give it, let's say, another 3 minutes, and then we'll get going so we can make sure we get through all the content today. I see we do have others. Welcome, welcome. Lovely to have you here in our last Wisdom Wednesday of the year. Can you believe it? All right, we're going up in numbers slowly but surely. Welcome, everybody that's joining. Lovely to have you. Thank you so much for joining our, excuse me, last Wisdom Wednesday of the year. Don't mind if we're a small group, we can understand everybody's tired. Everyone's trying to cram in so much at this time of the year. We're all just pushing to that deadline where we can finally have a little bit of a breather and a little bit of a break from a crazy, crazy busy year. How fast has this year gone? It's just mind-blowing, really. My head is still, I think, somewhere in September. I don't understand how we're in December already. All right, but welcome. Thank you so much for joining. It's 1 minute past 11. And our number is steadily going up. If you don't mind, I'm just going to wait till it hits 3 minutes past 11, and then I will get going. In the meantime, let's go to Menti. You'll see that I've posted a link in the chat. Let me kickstart the Menti meter, and I'd love to hear from you. Does the festive season stress you out? How do you feel about the festive season? That breather that we all just waiting to get, whether it starts next week, Friday for you, like it does for many, whether you still like me are pushing right through to the 23rd of December. Does the festive season stress you out? You're very welcome to go into the chat. I've posted a link there. Alternatively, if you just want to type menti.com on your phone, it will ask you for a code, and you can pop in the code that you're seeing up here on the screen, and that will give you the opportunity to participate. All right, I'm pretty sure that it's 3 minutes past, so while you give that some thought, let's kickstart. All right, so firstly, just a very big hello and welcome from myself. My name is Carol. Very happy to be part of the Academy of York team and to present today's Wisdom Wednesday for you. I do have my colleague and backup Pumla, who is also online today. So if anything does go wrong, Pumla might step in, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have a smooth ride and all will go well. So, what are we talking about today? What are we looking at? Well, stress management and setting boundaries in the festive season. Whether you celebrate Christmas or not, it's the holidays, and it's time for us to, as I say, take either a deep breath in or to finally exhale out after a crazy year. But it does tend to get even more stressful as we hit this festive season. It's not always the joyful, relaxing time that we so hope for. There's a lot of pressure, and there's a lot to achieve during the festive season. And whether that break for you is just 3 days long or whether it's a week or two, it can be really, really stressful. So that's what we're going to look at today. Why is it so stressful, firstly? What are some of the stresses during this time of the year? I'm really going to ask you to pause and to think about your stress. What does it mean to you? How do you feel stress? How do you know when you're stressed? I'm just going to touch on very briefly, what is stress really? We know we need stress in life, right? Else we would just be couch potatoes and we wouldn't be motivated to achieve anything. But why do we get stressed, and what is stress? We'll touch on some of the symptoms, some ways to manage stress, especially at this time of the year. And then I'm going to move on to chatting to you about boundaries, the importance of setting boundaries, what they are, how they can protect your mental health and your energy at this time of the year. And then a little bit more in terms of how you can say no, how to stop being a people pleaser, and how to say no, especially if you're someone like me who really struggles to say no and finds it quite uncomfortable because I always feel like I'm letting people down if I say no. And then I'm just going to finish off with a bit of a summary and some tips that hopefully you can take away. But please, as we go along today, feel free to use the chat. I know I'm not looking at it right now as I'm focused on the screen, but please feel free to use the chat. If anything urgent comes up, Pumla will certainly alert me to it, and I will engage with you towards the end as well, just to deal with any of your comments or anything that comes through. So we've had one response on the Mentimeter. Does the festive season stress you out? We've got one person saying, I have to wait and see. I can fully appreciate that. Maybe as you're in the middle of it and you finally get that chance to have a break, you'll know whether it's going to be stressful or not. Oh, and then we've got yes and thankfully not. Oh, I'm super envious of the thankfully not. And I really hope for you it stays that way, because it shouldn't be a stressful time. But for so many reasons, it really can be. Um, I work in the mental health space. I see a lot of individuals that come through to me for counseling. I do a lot of workplace employee wellness support, and definitely see that at this time of the year, things like stress and burnout and even suicide rates drastically increase. People tend to go into crisis at this time of the year. Not everyone, of course, but there are a few that really, really struggle this time of the year. And there's a multitude of reasons for that. So I'm going to sort of touch on that now, but I'm also going to ask you in a moment to share what are some of the things that stress you out at this time of the year. Whether you find it a stressful time or not, are there some things that just stress you out, or that could potentially stress you out? But why is the festive season so stressful? I think really, if I were to summarize it, it's because of the expectations that we put onto this time of the year. I even have expectations of the weather. I'm based here in Johannesburg. If you're here, you'll know we've had, and I know many parts of the country are actually in the same position. We've had terrible weather, just in terms of so much rain and the most horrific storms that have, really been so destructive. My expectations of this time of the year, of December, is really just sunshine and braaiing and being outdoors. When I lived at the coast, it was the best time to go to the beach, and really soak in that holiday vibe. I'm certainly not feeling that here. There is that expectation that's just not being met. So sometimes we do feel overwhelmed, we feel stretched, and truthfully so, we're quite exhausted at this time of the year. We've all been through, and I'm sure if you take a moment to reflect on the year, we've been through a lot, you know. Maybe there's some really great things that happened this year, some wonderful achievements, some new journeys that were started. Like perhaps this was the first year that you decided to study and to take on a course with Academy of York. Perhaps you've been through some loss during this year. We go through very painful things during the year as well. And that is a big trigger as well, because sometimes we look around us, we see all the Christmas lights, we see all the festivities. Everybody else seems to be getting into that Christmas spirit or that festive season spirit. But we reflect on the losses and the individuals that aren't here with us. And we feel a sense of loss and sometimes a sense of loneliness and a sense of emptiness as well. Perhaps we're going through some difficult times with loved ones, whether it be friends or family members. And it really puts a spotlight on that this time of the year when it's such a social season as well. Everybody, is feeling festive, or many are feeling festive. They're inviting us to socialize, they're inviting us for braais, they want to go out for dinner. Some people are very fortunate and they get bonuses at this time of the year, or they've saved up for this time of the year. And others are really struggling financially and don't know how to get festive without anything, to spend, and to try to keep up with that peer pressure that we have at this time of the year. So our calendars are generally packed, lots of invites, lots of opportunities to connect with people. Sometimes social media is also leading us to feel overwhelmed because everybody's sharing about these magnificent holidays that they're going on. I experienced that yesterday on my family chat group. Where we have a mixture of different religions in my family. We have individuals that are Jewish, we have Christian family members, we have some that don't practice at all, but everyone was sharing, different setups, and some have put up fairy lights and some have put up Christmas trees. And I looked at that and I was like, goodness me, I'm nowhere near to that right now. I can't think about any kind of celebrating. I'm just trying to get through every day, and I'm feeling a little bit tired and overwhelmed. So we can feel, as I said before, lonely. We can feel exhausted. We can feel burnt out. Whatever it is, it's ours. It's our journey. It's our experience. And I'm hoping that some of the things I share with you today might just help you to manage that and to process where you at this time of the year. So now I'm going to ask you if you could go back to Mentimeter, look at that link in the chat, or else just type menti.com in your phone and then put in this particular code. But I'd love to hear from you. Is there anything you do find stressful, or anything that does cause you stress over the festive season? Perhaps it is the expectations of spending money that you don't have, spending, large amounts on Christmas presents that people don't even need. Perhaps you need to travel to get to your family this time of the year, and that's really, really stressful. Perhaps you still have a lot of, deadlines, whether it be around your studies or whether it be around your, around your work that you're doing. Is there anything in particular that you find stressful this time of the year? If you're not able to use Menti, you're very welcome to put it into the chat. Sometimes Menti can play tricks and not work as it should. All right. Well, let's keep moving, and I'm going to share a bit of a video with you. It's a news bulletin around stress at this time of the year and what causes us stress. Maybe some of this will resonate with you, and then we'll unpack it a little bit more. If you could just give me the thumbs up that you can hear the sound, that would be appreciated.
The holidays are often seen as a time of happiness and celebration, but for some, this time of year is a tough one. According to the American Psychological Association, 38% of people surveyed say they have extra stress during the holidays. Clinical psychologist Jeff Gardier joins me live now for more on this. Jeff, thanks for being here. Why are the holidays so stressful for some?
Because of the expectations that are placed on everyone. They feel that they have to be at every gathering, that they have to buy expensive gifts, that they have to be on their behavior, which is a good thing to be. But we also see a lot of issues around seasonal affective disorder, where people just are really feeling down. And so therefore, Diane, they're forcing themselves to do things that they may not necessarily have the strength emotionally to do.
So what are some triggers that can cause stress for people around the holidays, and can you avoid them?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest triggers is actually family, and we want to be around family. But it's really fascinating, isn't it, that when we are with people who we love, who we've grown up with, we tend to fall back into those original roles when we were kids. But we also see the lack of time that we have to get ourselves together, the financial pressures that we have that are part of this new reality that we're in, and of course, the family gatherings where if you're hosting them, you're expected to do so many things. Those things are real triggers for bringing out a lot of holiday stress.
Now, some of those things are difficult to avoid. So are there things you can do to cope?
Yeah, I think that you have to really do some self-talk before you leave your home, making sure that you are not going to get into any kind of conversations that are divisive, instead looking for commonalities. Important to surround yourself with people who really do appreciate you. And whatever you do, it's also important to try to help people who really need you, people who are maybe seniors or who may be homeless or unsheltered. That really gets you out of your own head and really into the importance of caring for one another's, which is what this holiday season is really all about.
And the holidays can be especially hard if you've lost a loved one, especially recently. So how can you seek connection and make that grief a little bit easier around the holidays rather than feel like it's exaggerated?
Especially right with COVID, and we've lost so many people, it's important, I think, to attend services and vigils and celebrations for the people who are no longer with us. And more than anything, celebrate their memories and what they meant to us in our lives. And I think that is one of the best things that one can do sitting around the table, because it's not about regrets, it's not about sorrow, but it's more about positivity. And that is always a welcome thing around the table.
All right, Jeff Gardier, we appreciate your analysis as always. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking.
Lovely. So I think that video is just a nice summary as well, sharing some of the things that could really trigger us during this time of the year, some of the things we reflect on. I really love the idea where he shared, sometimes we need to get out of our head. I'm certainly one of those people that get very stuck in my head and my own thoughts sometimes, but maybe doing something for somebody else, finding, perhaps a little bit of a project in our community that we could contribute to or volunteer for, whether it is putting a little hamper together for somebody less fortunate than us. It doesn't always have to cost money to do that. Just doing a kind deed for somebody else this time of the year can help us feel less focused on ourselves and everything happening around us and in our families and our homes, but maybe doing a little something for the community. The mall very close to me always has a project for one of the children's homes in the area where you can pick a gift, pick a name off the tree for a child and buy them a small gift. It doesn't have to be expensive, just a little, like a t-shirt and some sweets or something, and put it together, wrap it up, and go put it back under the tree, and then they give it out at the children's home. And that's something I love to do every year because it reminds me about doing something for others, and that it's not just about gifts and spending money and eating and all the socializing, that there's so much needed in the world, and we can do little things to make it a better place for others. But going back to you and to stress in your life and at this time of the year, I just want you to reflect on, and maybe you can do this in your, as a little exercise in the next few days when you have a moment. But we talk about being stressed all the time, right? I'm guilty of that. I think every day, at least 3 times, whether I'm speaking to my child or to a friend, I'll say, I'm so stressed or I'm stressed out. I'm saying it all the time. And I think, we've normalized being stressed. And absolutely, stress is a part of life. There's no easy ride, and there are days that might be more stressful than others. But it is important that we have a certain level of stress in our lives because, as I said earlier, if we don't have stress, we're not motivated and we can become very lazy. But there's a tipping point for stress as well. There's a point where too much stress starts to impact us in so many different ways, and we'll look at that in a moment. But I want you to take some time out to think about, what does stress look like for you? How do you know when you are stressed? What are the symptoms you feel? What are the signs? What are the stress signals? For example, realized I start to develop insomnia because I can't switch my head off at night. The wheels are turning far too much. I also drink more caffeine then because I'm tired in the day and my energy levels are low. So I drink a lot more coffee. It's like self-soothing, I guess, to have that warm beverage. And I also find that I'm a little bit more irritable with others. And sometimes in severe cases where it's been a really hectic week, I struggle with migraines. So what does stress look like for you? And then also, what are the sources of your stress? What are the triggers? Whether it's right now as you and I are connecting together, or as you sit here in that first week of December, what are your stresses? It's easy to say that everything stresses us out and that we're stressed all the time. But can you pinpoint what exactly is the source of your stress? Is it time management? Is it having too much on your plate? Is it a particular person? Is it aspects of your family dynamics? Is it your finances? What is it that is stressing you? Because only once you really know and you break it down into those different things can you do something about it. And I also want you to think about what stress strategies do you have? You know, you've coped with X amount of years of stress. You've got through it all. You must have somewhere in the past have had coping mechanisms, hopefully healthy ones, and strategies that help you to deal with stress, especially when your stress level gets to that tipping point and you're starting to feel some of those emotional or physical symptoms really starting to come through. So, what are your strategies that you could lean on during stressful times? Because what works for me may not necessarily work for you. We are also unique in the way that we manage our stress and what works for us. I love exercising. I know, not many people do. I'm very fortunate that I enjoy it. And I find that when I exercise, whether it's going for a walk or whether it's doing some stretching or doing a class at the gym, that is a great stress management strategy for me. It helps me to completely reset. It gets my stress hormones down. I feel a lot more grounded. I feel like I can face the world again and that I'm more resilient than I was before I was exercising. Everything else around me is still the same, but the way I feel is different, even if it is just for a few hours. So, what are your strategies that you've used before and that you could lean on right now? And what are those healthy mechanisms that you can put into place to cope? Because not all of our coping mechanisms are healthy. I see a lot of individuals that struggle with substance abuse, that struggle with, escapism and finding ways of escaping from their stress and their troubles. Everything from gambling to, eating and eating junk food and eating unhealthily. So make sure that the coping mechanisms you put in place are healthy ones rather than leaning into that space where it's a little bit unhealthy and there could even be more far reaching consequences for you. And the last thing I'd like you to reflect on your own is, who do you go to for support? Who can you go to? Maybe you are fortunate and have a really good person, a good friend in your corner who sees you, who hears you, who understands you, and who you can just have a good vent session if you need to just pour out, to them how tough things are, and they'll listen with you and they'll understand you and they won't judge you. Or is there, maybe a more formal measure of support you could lean on to? Maybe it's an elder at your church, for example. Maybe it's a family member that you look up to. Maybe it's a mentor that you have, whether it be at work or just in life in general. Who do you turn to and who can you turn to when you feel like you need that bit of support? All right. So I'm going to ask you to take that away and spend some time reflecting on that when you've got a moment. But what is stress really? In a nutshell, this thing that we have all the time and that we carry like a badge sometimes. In a nutshell, the truth of it is that stress is really when we have too many demands on us and we don't necessarily have or feel that we have the resources to deal with those demands. So if you look at this visual, it's like being on a seesaw. Those demands are heavy, they outweigh the resources that we have. And those resources can be, internal, just our sense of resilience, our sense of coping, our sense of our mental health at that particular point in time, or actual resources that we don't have to lean on, like somebody to support us, or perhaps even something around our finances. So that is really when we are stressed, is when those demands become too much. The rest of the time, if our resources are where we need them to be, whether they're external or internal, we manage and we keep going and we're fine and we don't necessarily feel stressed. We're just doing and we keep going. And I wanted to share with you just a definition then of stress as well. It's a psychological, a physiological, and a behavioral response by us, by an individual, when we perceive that lack of balance or that lack of equilibrium between the demands being placed on us and our ability or our resources to meet those demands. So, psychological, meaning it impacts our mental health, our way of thinking, our mood, the way that we feel. Physiologically, it starts to impact us in a physical way. It impacts our body, our actual, health itself, and even our behavior. So we might become a little bit more irritable, a little bit more snappy. Find that we feel angry all the time and that we're showing that anger by, I don't know, slamming doors. I actually did that yesterday, and I was just at a point where I felt quite like everyone wanted something from me and I couldn't cope. And I'd walked out of my office and really slammed my door. And my husband was sitting marking exam papers because he's in the academic field. And he went, "And now what's with the door slamming?" And I just sort of had a little temper tantrum and said, you won't understand, just leave it. And I walked off. But I realized in that moment as well, my behavior was showing how stressed I am and how overwhelmed I'm feeling. So there's all those things and those signs that we have. But what is crucial here to hold in mind is that over a long period of time, if it continues like that, it can lead to ill health. It can really, really impact on us. Sometimes if we don't stop, our body forces us to stop. There's been times in my life where I've just kept ignoring stress and I've kept going and kept going and kept going. And then sort of woken up on a day where I actually can't get out of bed because I'm just broken, to be honest, whether it is that I've developed a chest infection or whether I have a migraine that has just absolutely grounded me. So, oh, sorry, can I ask everybody to mute themselves? I can hear somebody else coming through. Thank you so much. All right, so we can't keep going and ignoring stress when we start to see symptoms of stress. And these are some of them that I'm just sharing with you on the screen. And remember, I've asked you to go think about what are some of your signals, what are some of your symptoms or signs that you're under too much stress. Maybe you struggled with concentrating and you procrastinate and you're distracted with work or with your studies. Perhaps, like me, you get something like migraines or headaches, a sense of anxiety, which can be very real with a racing heart and, sort of even getting the shakes sometimes. Anger, as I was sharing with you, with me slamming the door yesterday. Some people struggle with digestive problems, finding that they get an upset stomach or they develop stomach cramps. That fatigue, that exhaustion, because every part of us is trying to fight that stress and trying to keep going. So we're just absolutely exhausted. Decreased sex drive, which can impact on relationships, getting skin irritations as well. Maybe if you struggle with something like eczema, you'll find that it flares up when you're under stress, or maybe you break out in rashes. I was chatting to somebody earlier this week who had shared how they keep getting shingles and getting these terrible rashes with it, which is when they're under too much stress. We sometimes feel it in our muscles as well, and that's in different parts of our body. Sometimes it's our lower back that sort of freezes up, and those muscles feel awful, and we feel 90 years old. Sometimes it sits here in your shoulders or in your neck, and you just feel like, oh my goodness, I'm so tense. I can feel it all in my muscles. Some people grind their teeth. Oh, something I've definitely done under extreme stress, where I've even cracked a tooth and had to go to the dentist and had to get a mouth guard to protect me for a while. And at that point, my dentist even said to me, "What are you doing about your stress? You can't keep going on like this. Your body is sending signals to you." So, teeth grinding can also be a very real thing. And then a sense of apathy, just getting to that point of, I just don't care anymore. I just want this year to be over. I'm just so exhausted. I just don't care. Everything can fall apart. I really just don't care anymore. I'm not going to try perform. I'm not going to try do it all. I'm not going to get anywhere near to it all. Just that sense of apathy and almost not caring. So all of these can be signs of stress and that there is too much stress in your life. So watch out for this, especially during this period where it can be even more stressful and where we are tired and our resources are drained. So what do we do about it? And I know the video that I shared with you earlier, and I'm certainly got one or two other videos I'm going to share with you today. But what do we do about stress? Because we very often can't avoid it. Thinking of this time of the year and maybe some of the stress being that you have to travel to be with your family or that family's coming to you, which is what's happening to me next week. And I'm not ready for that yet. We can't avoid it. It's a time for family to be together. It's a normal thing at this time of the year. It's an expectation at this time of the year. Can't avoid it. But what can we do about it? So the first strategy I want to share with you is the 3 A's, the triple A's of managing stress. So simple. But the first thing is to acknowledge, okay? To acknowledge what are your stresses and to acknowledge that you are feeling extremely stressed. Take a moment to see those signals and to feel the signals and acknowledge the signals that your body might be sending to you. The next thing is to accept that sometimes some of these stresses cannot be avoided. That your family's arriving next week, or you're going to have to hit the road next week over that long weekend to get to be with your family wherever they may be. Accept it, make peace with it, so that you can start to do the work and think of the plans and put things into action. Because the more we avoid, the more we deny it, the more we procrastinate about it, the more the stress snowballs and starts to impact on us until it gets to that breaking point where you have no choice but to do something about it. And maybe it's that point where it is that you just actually can't even function anymore and you can't even face anything anymore. So acknowledge, accept, and take action. And here are just a few tips, and I'm going to reiterate these towards the end as well. But some tips for coping with general stress, and especially some of the stress around these holidays and around the festive season. Don't forget to get enough sleep and to exercise. That's one thing about this time of the year. We fall so out of routine. Don't you agree with me? We have the year, yes, as we get tired, we don't maybe, keep up with it as we would like to, and life gets busy, but we start cutting into our sleep. We stop doing things like exercising, that walk that we did 3 times a week, or that run that we did, or a cycle, or a little bit of stretching, or a yoga class, or a Zumba class, or whatever it might be that you do to exercise. It all falls away for the whole month of December, and we pick it up in January when it's New Year, New Me. um, we also just think we can deprive ourselves of sleep by pushing ourselves with all these late nights to fit in as many social things and as much family time and as much maybe me time as we can. And it's okay. When January comes, I'm going to get back into routine. And then we start the year on such a deficit, on such a, um, a bad foot, because we're going into the new year absolutely exhausted. We haven't exercised. We've eaten more. We've eaten more unhealthily. We now need to also lose weight and get back into shape because it's the new year and it's the new me. But imagine if we could keep up with our healthy lifestyle and our healthy routine over December so that we don't have to put in all this extra energy in the new year. It's just ticks over and we can just sharpen up where we want to, but we've got a bank of energy and health that we can lean on to start the new year with. Avoid overspending. I know that's a tough one with all the socializing. Every family gathering means more food. I mean, I'm already dreading. I know I've got to go stock up my cupboards and my fridge because I've got family coming next week. Everything's empty right now. We can scrape and we can eat the salty cracks and the 2-minute noodles. My family here is fine with that. But there's this expectation with family coming to stay that there's going to be nice fruit juice in the fridge and there's going to be chips and sweets and biscuits and all kinds of things. So sorry, can I ask you to mute? I can hear somebody again. Would you mind muting? Thank you so much. Yeah, so just be careful. You don't have to say yes to everything. You don't have to supply all the luxury, yummy foods. Look at what you could cut back on and have a budget for this festive season. Even if you are fortunate and you have a bonus and you can let your hair down a little bit and spoil people, have a conversation with family members about putting, a budget, a limit on what's going to be spent. We don't need to have, when we have a braai, we don't need to have 3 different types of meats. Maybe we just need one type of meat on the braai. So look carefully at where you can nip that spending in the butt. So you don't go into the new year having to take out loans, not able to pay school fees if you have kids, or having to really skimp on the stationery that your kids need, or starting your year just feeling absolutely broke and that piggy bank is just not even in existence. And don't focus on having a perfect holiday. Watch those expectations. Don't set them so high that you're just disappointed and you feel like it was actually just an awful time and I just can't wait to go back to work and back to my studies. There is no such thing as perfect. Have the best holiday that you can. Make the most of whatever you get to do. I'm having a staycation because family are coming here. I'm anticipating the weather's going to be awful. But that's okay. We'll find other things to keep us busy and things that we can enjoy. There is no such thing as perfect. Make the most of whatever your circumstances are. It's about the memories at the end of the day. Examine and revise those expectations. I know it's hard to control other people's expectations, so we're going to look at saying no and setting boundaries, but just watch those expectations. Don't fall into that trap of trying to keep everybody happy and make everything perfect. Don't be afraid to say no, to turn down offers of going out for dinner, or, to go to that party, or to go out for drinks, or to spend a fortune on presents. Say no, and I'm going to help you with that in a moment. And talking about healthy lifestyles at this time, be careful about alcohol. Our alcohol consumption in South Africa just quadruples over the festive season. That's why there's cops on every corner waiting to breathalyze us and to catch us, for misbehaving on the roads. And there's so many accidents. But that aside, just in terms of our physical health and mental health, just be careful of over drinking at this time of the year. We don't need, every occasion doesn't need to be a drinking occasion. There's so much more to life than just, constantly drinking. And watch out for those treats and all the snacks and the chips and the dips and the chocolates and, all the festivities that go around eating at this time of the year. Because like I say, you go into that new year just feeling awful about yourself. So I'm going to touch a bit now, and we've got about 20-25 minutes left. I want to touch on boundaries and how boundaries can really help you manage your stress and some of those stresses, but also just help you to be a little bit more assertive when you need to say no, or you need to turn down people and maybe disappoint some people sometimes. We use the term boundaries as such a big thing. You need to put boundaries in place with that one. You have no boundaries, or they have no boundaries. But we forget that sometimes it's the little things that we say or do that can help us with boundaries and can help protect us from other people's behavior and from things like, stresses. And having a boundary is a lot more than just saying no. It's also not just about physical space. I know when we think about a boundary, just as that previous slide I had, you think there's kind of, there's a line. This is my boundary. Don't put your toes over it, and I'm not going to put my toes over it. This is the line in the sand. Yes, we've got physical boundaries as well. Maybe we don't like people touching us, we don't want to be hugged, or we don't like people in our space, or this is my office, nobody comes in here, this is where I work. So we have physical boundaries, absolutely. But we also need to have boundaries to protect our feelings, to protect our emotions, um, to protect our energy levels, to make sure that our needs are being met, to make sure that people understand, this is what I need from you right now. This is the expectation that I have, and this is the boundary that I'm putting in place over this family gathering, because I don't want to talk about my breakup that I had earlier this year. I don't want to talk about when am I having kids. I don't want to talk about, finances. So what are my needs, and what are we not going to be talking about or looking at or discussing during this time? It also helps us in terms of managing our responsibilities instead of trying to do everything and be everything for everyone. It's about taking note of, well, this is what I'm responsible for. And these are my key responsibilities. Yes, my family's all coming here. My responsibility is to make sure that there's enough food for them. But it's not my responsibility to take everybody out for a posh dinner and to pick up that bill. It's not my responsibility to make sure that everybody has spending money while they're on holiday. That's their problem. That's their issue. And it's certainly not my responsibility to be running off to the shops every 5 minutes to spend money because somebody wants something, or they want to go walk around the mall. I've got to set those boundaries with them. You can also set boundaries to ensure that how other people treat you are or is respectful and is the way you want to be treated. So sometimes a boundary is saying, This is my home. I won't have you talking to me like that while you're here. I won't have you bossing me around. I won't have you disrespecting the rules of my house, as an example. So, setting those boundaries and expectations of how people should be treating you. And when we have healthy boundaries in place, whether it's over this festive season or just generally in life, it helps us to feel good, to feel like we, in a good space, to feel that we're in control of things. It helps us to grow as a person. It gives us a sense of freedom because we don't feel like, everybody's disrespecting us and on top of us all the time. So it really can be quite liberating when we figure out what boundaries we need and we put them in place. So I'm just going to touch on quickly, because I said to you, boundaries aren't just physical, like this is my space and this is what I don't want near me or on me or touching me. Boundaries are so much more than that. You could have personal boundaries in terms of, for example, time. This is my time. I'm putting a boundary in place that between 8 o'clock and 12 o'clock every day, I'm going to be working or I'm going to be studying. That is my time. That is what I'm asking you to respect, even though you visitors in my home. And, you put those, you express those. Boundaries can be emotional. It could be a boundary about how people are expressing emotions to you. Let's use the example of anger, putting a boundary there. You're welcome to be angry, but there won't be any slamming, banging, kicking, screaming, shouting to express that emotion. That's a boundary that we are putting in place. You could have physical boundaries, I already shared with you. Sometimes just a mental boundary to protect yourself. It could be, for example, that right now I don't have the mental capacity to really talk about that trauma that I went through earlier this year. So, to protect my mental health, I'm putting a boundary in place and I'm telling people that I'm not ready to talk about that. When I am, I'll let you know, and I appreciate the support, but I've put a boundary in place around that particular issue. I'm protecting my mental health. Sometimes that even means saying no to people that are toxic in your life, saying no to family members who do want to come stay with you, but they maybe just take advantage of you and that you find they're quite toxic and they cause trouble for you. But that's to protect your mental health, that you need to put a boundary with that person. You can have material or financial boundaries. That could be this time of the year around those budgets I mentioned to you, putting a limit on what we're going to spend. No, we cannot go out every single night or order takeouts every single night. We're going to do that once a week. So it's putting a financial boundary in place, a material boundary. It might be something around, some of your things that you don't want somebody to touch. Kids may not play with I don't know, your earpods. I don't know, I'm just coming up with an example, but protecting your things sometimes as well. And of course, there can be spiritual or religious boundaries, especially this time of the year. If you have a family like mine, where you're very blended in terms of religion, it's setting boundaries in place with, you know, meeting everybody's expectations and everybody's needs around that as best we can. But we have certain boundaries in place in terms of, for example, it impacts our meals that we prepare, but there won't be any pork products because we have family members with that boundary and we respect that. So we've made a decision as a family, there'll be no pork during the festive season and no meals that we serve with that. So that's just a very basic example that I can think of, but you can think of some of your own. So, why do we fear boundaries if we know that we need them to protect our mental health, to protect our relationships sometimes as well? Why do we struggle to put boundaries in place? Why do we struggle to say to that family member, no, I'm not buying you that Christmas gift on your list for 4,000 Rand because I don't have that money? We rather go take loans and we rather make sacrifices and we stretch ourselves to make them happy. And we don't put boundaries in place because we fear rejection. None of us wants to feel that we're bad or people are looking at us differently or that they're not going to love or accept us. So we avoid putting boundaries in place so that we don't get rejected. We also want to avoid conflict. And I certainly raise my hand on that one. It's a big one for me. I don't like fighting. I'm a peacekeeper and a peacemaker. I think it comes from being the eldest child, with two other children in the family. Somebody else raised their hand. Thanks for that. So I always make the peace. That's my role in the family. People are fighting. Carol steps in and says, guys, please, let's not fight. Life is short. Can we work this out? I try to get people to talk. So I'm always avoiding conflict. And therefore, I sometimes bite my tongue and don't say what I should say because I'm scared of that conflict. I don't want people to be angry with me. I don't want to fight. I avoid it. But yeah, sometimes it lands up being a fight in the long run anyway, because I didn't speak up and I didn't tell them what my boundaries were. I didn't tell them what my needs were and what I expected from them. And then I get angry because of it. And then there's a fight at the end of the day, regardless. We don't put boundaries in place because we don't want to appear selfish. When my mom-in-law puts that expensive gift on her wish list for Christmas, I don't want to seem selfish that I'm like, oh, I don't want to spend that money on you. I need to do some repairs at my home, I'd rather spend the money on that. But then that seems selfish to me. So I always give in, and whatever gift she wants is, what I end up getting her, which isn't right because I end up feeling resentful and feeling angry instead of telling her, no, I'm so sorry, I can't afford that. My budget is X amount. Is there anything on your list that fits into that budget? Because I'm happy to get that for you. Sometimes we fear losing relationships. It ties in with, rejection. We fear being judged. If I put a boundary in place that I'm not going to be going out for dinner every night to Tasha's, and joining everybody for drinks and cocktails over the festive season, people are going to judge me and be like, hey, what's Carol's problem? But I think when we put boundaries in place and we're able to assertively express them, which I'm going to share with you in a minute, people don't judge us. They end up respecting us. Sometimes they want to be like us and think, wow, I wish I had that kind of, confidence that Carol has to be able to say, no, thanks. Sorry, guys. I'm not going to join you guys. I'm giving that one a skip. I just don't have that in my budget right now. So we need to flip it around, but we do fear being judged. And sometimes we just fear the unknown. Like if I do say that this particular family member who is so toxic and brings so much drama into my home that they're not welcome here, I'm setting a physical, emotional, mental boundary. What's going to happen? What fallout will I have to deal with if I put that boundary in place? So sometimes just the fear of unknown stops us from acting. And I wanted to share with you what are 5 signs that you do need to set boundaries. Maybe it's right now over this particular, family orientated time. Maybe it's just in general. But number one, if you find yourself feeling annoyed when others place demands on you or on your time, if you get annoyed and in your head you're going, oh, I don't have time with this. Why are they always asking me? Or don't they know how much I have on my plate right now? Or even if it's a financial ask, which is very common this time of the year as well. Now I'm angry, like, why are they asking me for money? Don't they know how stretched I am and how broke I am at the moment? If you're thinking thoughts and you're feeling annoyed like that, you need to consider some boundaries. If you have trouble sleeping because your mind is just racing at night when you go to bed, definitely a signal of stress and a sign that you might need to look at some boundary. If you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling that your relationships are suffering and just not what they should be because you're not able to express yourself, you're not able to put any kind of boundary in place, whatever it might be with a person. And also, if you feel like you're being pulled in a million directions, everybody wants a piece of you and there's just so much happening and it's so exhausting, that's a really good sign that you do need to put some boundaries in place. And I'm going to share a short video with you quickly that could be helpful.
Imagine you created a beautiful garden, but you notice people walking through the grass, littering, or even picking the flowers you've grown. So you put up a fence to mark what is your space, and you now decide who can come in through the gate. This is how we would protect our garden, and is also how we should protect ourselves, by setting boundaries. Boundaries are limits we set for ourselves within relationships, be they romantic, professional, friends, or family. You want to clearly see where you end and someone else begins.
I describe boundaries like a roadmap of me showing you how best to have a relationship with me. It is me clearly expressing and communicating my values and preferences because I want you in my life.
Some examples of boundaries are physical boundaries, what you are comfortable with in terms of your own space and your own body. Emotional boundaries, what you are comfortable with sharing and what you would like to keep private. And time boundaries, how you would like to prioritize your own time and where you would like to take time to rest.
An example of a request would be, please stop raising your voice. An example of a boundary would be, if you continue to raise your voice, I'm leaving. That would be me clearly expressing my thoughts and feelings, being aware of what I'm responsible for, and being aware that I don't need to explain my no.
Boundaries are something that everyone can benefit implementing in their life because they not only protect our time and energy, they also protect our relationships. They prevent miscommunication, misunderstandings, and built-up resentment. But what about when someone doesn't respect a boundary?
What's often difficult for people is what to do when somebody violates or oversteps a boundary. And if we use the earlier example that if somebody was to raise their voice at me, I am responsible for protecting myself. A lot of people fall into rescuing or fixing the other person, whereas that is up to me to protect myself. And if you continue to raise your voice at me, I leave.
If you feel like you need support, please contact your local mental health services.
Okay, so just a lovely little video summing up what a boundary is and giving some example there of how you could set boundaries. I'm going to sort of finish off with that now as well as we get to the end of today's session. But how to set personal boundaries. Number one, just as I said to you with stress, you have to define what your boundary is and what you are needing. If it is, and I'll just use the simple example of, not raising, somebody's not allowed to raise their voice to you, or if it's a financial boundary that you've set, define it and express it. Communicate to others what that boundary is. Communicate that you've set a limit on the budget that you're going to be spending this time of the year, or the number of social activities, or the expectations that other people have on you. But remember, they're not psychic. They can't read your mind. So you can't expect them to respect and honor that boundary unless you tell them what it is. Also, keep it simple. You don't have to over explain yourself. If you need to say no, you don't need to tell people, because I can't come to the dinner at Tasha's because I'm so broke, I have no money. You don't have to over explain yourself. You have the right to just say no, or to decline, and just say, listen, guys, sorry, I'm going to skip this one. I've already got plans. Going to join you on the next one. Have an awesome time. Sometimes it's just as simple as that. Keep it simple. And set consequences and state why a boundary is important to you. Using a financial example, explain to others, I'm sorry, this is my budget. You don't even have to say sorry. This is my budget for this time of the year. I can't overstep it because I've got to buy school books and stationery and all kinds of things in the new year. So I'm watching my pennies really closely, and I'm going to, I'm going to set a budget for us for Christmas presents, just as an example. Using iMessages is a wonderful way to say no, to express how you feel, to be assertive, to set a boundary in place. It's actually quite a magical formula. And I really want you to walk away today and try it with someone. The more you practice it, the more you use it, the easier it becomes. And it's quite simple. I'm going to use an example of what I should have said when that family member wanted me to buy a gift for 4,000 Rand and I did not have that in my budget. I could say something like, I feel quite overwhelmed that you've asked me to spend so much money. Or I feel quite overwhelmed when you ask me to buy such elaborate gifts. I need you to realize that I have a limited budget and I'd like you to pick something that's maybe a little less expensive. But do you see? An I message is about saying I. It's about taking ownership. It's about expressing how I feel. It's about putting a boundary in place to protect myself. So instead of saying, you need to stop doing this, you always want these elaborate gifts, you have such high expectations on me, you always ask me for a loan, don't focus on them and say, you. Turn that sentence around to use an I. I feel angry. I feel hurt when you ask me for money all the time. I need you to understand that I'm doing the best that I can within my financial means, and I will help you when I can, but I cannot do that all the time. Do you see? I. There might be one you there, but the rest of it is all using I. So I want you to give that a try. I feel, when, and I need. It's a really magical formula that can help you. And if, like me, you're a people pleaser, this time of the year, you think you're a bunny or a kitten and you can make everybody happy? Absolutely not. Stop being a people pleaser. It just drains you. It just ends up sometimes in more conflict at the end of the day. Practice saying no. Set healthy boundaries. Consider your priorities. If that's a priority that you want to help that person, that you do want to loan some money to them or get them that expensive gift, absolutely. If that's a priority, by all means, go ahead. Learn assertive behavior. Try those I messages that I've just shared with you. Sometimes just delaying your response, so when somebody asks you for something or they really, have a high expectation of you, don't respond immediately. Take a little bit of time, step back, practice the pause, think about how you'd like to respond constructively, maybe with an I message, and then go ahead and do that. So allow yourself the time, but also allow yourself some time for yourself. You can't be there for everybody and do everything. Don't use excuses and over explain yourself. You don't have to. Remember to keep it simple. Talk positively to yourself. Be your best friend. You don't need other people to tell you how awesome you are. You know how awesome you are. And if others reject you or they're not happy with what you say, that's all right. It's okay. Be comfortable with that. I'm just about done. I know we've hit time, but if you can stay on, that's amazing. I'm going to finish in the next few minutes. Here's a short video quick.
Here are the 4 ways to say no and stick to it. Number 1, practice makes perfect. It's a skill to say no. So you want to practice this in all the little ways. When I'm getting my legs waxed, they're always trying to sell me an exfoliant too, and I just say no thank you. So practice it everywhere you can, even in the little ways, so it's easier to do in the big ways. 2, research shows that if you make a plan before a situation for what you're going to say, you have a better chance of sticking to it. So practice even there about what you're going to say before a situation comes up, and you'll have a better chance of sticking a no. 3, I'm saying things like, I'm not putting anything else on my calendar right now. Give a pause. Check back with me in a month. Check back with me at the end of the year. Check back with me later. Put it on them. And last, no is a complete sentence. No need to justify or explain. Follow me. Here.
How amazing is that? No is a full sentence. Sometimes we can just say no. I had somebody do that to me the other day and I was shocked at first. I said, would you like to join us? And she said no. And I was like, oh, okay. But afterwards I thought about it and I was like, how wonderful for her. She put such a strong boundary in place. She was so assertive. She just said no. She didn't even explain herself. Doesn't mean we're not friends anymore. She just said no. So practice it, and it's a full sentence. Just remember that. All right, so I'm going to finish now. Last tips to share with you as I say goodbye. Don't overschedule yourself. Make time for yourself this time of the year. Just take a breather, recharge your batteries. Watch out for that gift giving, manage those expectations. Don't give in to peer pressure to buy the poshest, nicest, most expensive stuff and then go into January broke. Again, be careful about food and alcohol this time of the year. Enjoy family time on your terms. Even though it's family, doesn't mean you have to spend every minute with them doing everything that they want to do. Also, respect differences, stay open minded. If you need to be a bit flexible around things and it can't be done, the way it's always done, try some new things out. Um, you might be surprised at what you enjoy. Take time for yourself. Don't forget to prioritize yourself. Honor the losses of the year. Think back on the people that aren't with you. Think about them. See a way that you can honor them. Maybe it's lighting a candle. Maybe it's just putting some time aside to think about them. Don't forget routine and maintenance of yourself, that exercise, that eating healthily, looking after yourself. And if you really find you struggle at this time of the year, reach out for that help. Don't try to keep it all in on your own. And I'm finishing with a very short video to keep you thinking, and then I'll say goodbye.
Have you ever really thought why you do what you do during the holiday season? Have you ever asked yourself that question? At the Family Resource Center, we're going to challenge you to do a self-discovery process this year. Ask yourself, why do you put up a tree or decorate the house? Why do you bake goodies, buy gifts? Why do you volunteer? Why do you go to shows or concerts or children's programs or spiritual events? Why do you cook so much food and throw half of it away? Why do you spend so much time away from home doing busy things? And why do you spend so much money? Does what you do bring you joy and fulfillment? If so, then continue on. If not, reevaluate. It's a busy time of year. Are you finding time to relax, reconnect with family? Or is it frantic, chaotic? Think about what's in your control this year. What do you have the power to change? Think about one thing that you can decide to do differently this year. Can you delegate someone else putting up the tree or the outside decorations? Can you order food instead of making it homemade? Can you think about shopping differently? Maybe online, doing it less hectic, less hassle? Do you really need to wrap every gift? So rethink, why do you do what you do? And if you find yourself overly stressed, pick one thing this year to do differently. Plant that seed and find joy and fulfillment in the holiday season.
Okay, I think that's a lovely note to end on. Go find some joy. Go find some fulfillment during this festive season. You don't have to say yes to it all. You don't have to be it all. You don't have to spend all the money. Remember to take care of yourself in amongst all the craziness. All right. And with that, I've stolen an extra 6 minutes of your year, of your day. I just want to thank you all for joining and really just wish you well over this festive season. Take care of yourselves, look after your loved ones as best as you can. Stay safe if you're out there on the roads. Catch your breath, charge your battery, and I look forward to seeing you guys in 2026. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Hi, thank you, session. Was great. Bye.
I'm so
Bye.
glad. Thank you so much. Look after yourself.